A guy who built his fame doing burnouts on YouTube just landed a ride with one of the biggest teams in all of NASCAR. And even Kevin Harvick didn't see this one coming. Cleetus McFarland looked at Kevin Harvick and said, "I just signed a 2-year deal with RCR." Harvick's reaction? Just one word. What? He was completely caught off guard. And honestly, a lot of people were, because this is Childress Racing, one of the most famous teams in the history of NASCAR. And they just gave Cleetus McFarland a 2-year deal. Now let's break down what this deal actually is, because there's a lot of detail here that matters. This is a 2-year part-time deal. McFarland will race in the NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, which used to be called the Xfinity Series. He's going to drive the number 33 Childress Racing Chevrolet with Tommy's Express Car Wash as the primary sponsor backing the car. And that number 33 will be a third entry in RCR's program, the same program that won the championship last year with Jesse Love, and currently has Love and Austin Hill sitting first and second in the standings. His first race in the O'Reilly Series is set for Saturday, April 4th at Rockingham Speedway in North Carolina. After that, the plan is to race at Talladega Superspeedway and then Daytona. So he's focused on the big, fast tracks, the superspeedways. When McFarland shared this on the show, Harvick gave RCR a big compliment. He said, "Well, you've got the best cars." He added that he raced for Childress for a long time, and that there isn't anybody that puts any more effort into superspeedway racing than Richard. That means a lot. Harvick made his own Cup Series debut with RCR back in 2001. He knows the team inside and out. Now, if you don't know who Cleetus McFarland is, let me fill you in real quick. His real name is Garrett Mitchell. He's 30 years old, lives in Bradenton, Florida, and owns a racetrack called the Freedom Factory. But what really put him on the map is YouTube. The guy has over 4.6 million subscribers. He's built a huge fan base that loves motorsports because of him. And his big dream? Make it all the way to the NASCAR Cup Series. But he's still early in his racing career, so let's look at what he's done so far. Back in 2025, McFarland made his first starts in the ARCA Menards Series, driving for Rhett Jones Racing. He got top 10 finishes at both Talladega and Charlotte Motor Speedway. Then earlier this year, in February 2026, he ran the ARCA race at Daytona and finished 11th. He's also set to run a part-time ARCA schedule this year with Rhett Jones. Then came the big step. Last month, McFarland made his first NASCAR race start in the Craftsman Truck Series at Daytona International Speedway, but it didn't go well. He only lasted about 5 laps before he crashed hard, and it was a crash all by himself. Nobody hit him. He just lost it on his own, and his day was done. And here's another thing a lot of people don't know. Before that truck race at Daytona, McFarland had to pass a high-speed test at Rockingham to even get approved by NASCAR. And during that test, he crashed too. So when you add it all up, his full NASCAR experience is 4 ARCA starts in 2025, 1 ARCA start in 2026, and 1 Truck Series start that lasted 5 laps. That's it. And now he's moving up to the O'Reilly Series with Childress Racing. This is where things get really interesting, because NASCAR has a whole approval process for this. Jeff Gluck from The Athletic broke it all down on his podcast, The Gluckcast. NASCAR has already approved McFarland for all Truck Series races. The next step would normally be running O'Reilly Series short tracks, but McFarland isn't doing that. He's skipping short tracks and going straight for the super speedways. To do that, he has to run at least one other O'Reilly race first. That's why Rockingham on April 4th is so important. It's not just his first race in the series, it's his ticket to Talladega. But here's the catch. Getting through Rockingham doesn't mean he's automatically approved for Talladega. Gluck was very clear about that. He said, "This is not just a rubber stamp moment. I talked to NASCAR about this. There's a chance he could crash or not run well enough, and they can say, you know what, you're not ready for Talladega yet." So NASCAR is watching closely. If McFarland doesn't show he can handle it at Rockingham, they have full power to say no. Now, let's talk about the criticism, because there has been a lot of it. Freddie Kraft has been one of the loudest voices, doubling down and calling out NASCAR for even approving McFarland. The argument is simple. It's too early. He doesn't have enough experience. And when you look at the numbers, it's hard to argue against that. a handful of ARCA races, and one truck start that lasted 5 laps. That's not a lot. But Jeff Gluck had a different take. He said, "To me, a superspeedway is about if you're going to be a safety hazard to others. Also, the only way to get experience at those types of tracks is to go do them." His point is that superspeedways are a bit easier from a driving standpoint. You can't really practice for them anywhere else. You just have to go race at one. And because McFarland is only targeting superspeedways, not road courses, short tracks, or mile-and-a-half ovals, Gluck thinks it's a fair approach. But Gluck didn't give him a free pass either. He said if McFarland crashes and takes out someone fighting for the championship, everybody absolutely has the right to be upset and criticize him, and he will be criticized. If McFarland was trying to run all kinds of different tracks without experience, Gluck said he'd say to pump the brakes. But superspeedways only? He's okay with it. So where does all of this leave us? Now, here's a part of this story that a lot of people haven't heard yet, how this deal actually came together. It turns out Ty Dillon is the guy who made this happen. Dillon, who drives for Cowlick Racing, is also the grandson of Richard Childress. About a year ago, he found McFarland on social media and reached out directly. He called McFarland and asked what his racing goals were. McFarland told him straight up, he loves the superspeedways and dreams of one day racing in the Cup Series, maybe even the Daytona 500. But Dillon had one big condition before bringing the idea to his grandfather at RCR. He told McFarland, "We would only want to do this if you can stay original to who you are. We wouldn't want this to take you off of who Cleetus is, what your channel is, and what makes you fun, and if we're not having fun doing this whole project, we're failing." Dillon believes their fan bases overlap, and that merging them is good for both sides and for NASCAR. He said the plan is to grow Cleetus in the sport, and that RCR's resources can take his lack of experience and surround him with the right people to help him reach his goal. And McFarland himself isn't bothered by the critics. In an interview with Dale Earnhardt Jr., he said, "People can say whatever they want. But when I keep coming back every time and they realize that their words don't affect me time and time again, they're going to run out of breath." RCR is not a team that just hands out rides. They have 6 Cup titles, all with the legendary Dale Earnhardt. For them to commit to 2 years with a driver who has very little experience means they see something in him, whether that's his talent, his work ethic, or the massive audience he brings to NASCAR. At the same time, nobody knows for sure if McFarland is ready. His racing resume is thin. He's crashed in his test, crashed in his truck debut, and now he's stepping into faster, more competitive cars. Everything comes down to Rockingham on April 4th. If McFarland runs clean and shows he belongs, NASCAR will likely approve him for Talladega. If he doesn't, this whole plan could slow down fast. After Talladega, if he gets there, the next target is Daytona. The long game here is clear. Cleetus McFarland wants to make it to the Cup Series. These next 2 years with RCR will show us whether that dream has a real shot or whether the critics were right all along.